everyone and welcome to my channel. So today I'm talking about a new appointment show for Sunday nights on HBO called The Last of Us. And I believe if you're watching this video, you're probably a big fan of the video game that the show is being adapted from. I went in on The Last of Us completely blind. I actually watched the trailer, I think 2 days before the premiere on Sunday. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know the story. I didn't even hear about this video game. I did do some research after I watched the trailer. I was like, okay, it's just like an original IP. It's just an adaptation from a book. And then I found out about the video game. The first one came out in 2013, and then there's a part 2 that came out in 2020. And as I was doing my research for the show, I saw that Neil Druckmann, he's the co-creator of the video game. He's actually one of the executive producers on the HBO show, which I thought it was a good sign because then the show will have an appeal to non-gamers as well as die-hard fans. And I also saw that another producer and creator of the show, it was the guy that was behind Chernobyl, also on HBO, which was a great show. If you haven't seen Chernobyl, it's really good. So I started going into The Last of Us on a good foot. I admit though that when I saw the trailer, I was like, oh no, is this going to be like a Walking Dead, a zombie story? I'm not really into zombie movies and shows. Never seen Walking Dead. I know what it's about. I've seen, parts of it. Since White Lotus finished, I've been looking for something, like I said at the beginning of the video, an appointment show that everyone watches at the same time. And usually it's HBO that does that. So we had 2 seasons of White Lotus. We had The Undoing, what else? Succession. So when I saw that The Last of Us will be an appointment show, I was like, okay, I'll give it a try. The basic premise of The Last of Us is that, civilization is living in a post-pandemic world. I really like the beginning of the show where I think they're experts or doctors, scientists. It's 1969. They're at this talk show and they're talking about fungus and pandemics and how, a contagion would start when it comes from like a fungus. And they're even talking about LSD, that LSD, it's actually a fungus that infects your brain and that causes you to hallucinate. And the way they were describing infection actually gave me the chills, but I thought that conversation was really interesting. You know that show, I think it's on TLC, the Pimple Popper? Oh, no, you know how people enjoy watching that? It gives them like this pleasure. No, I cannot see like the pictures and they look like tumors and then the popping and the mucus coming out. Ugh. No. And there's a part on the first episode, and I think it was, because I paused it, it was an hour and 3 minutes in The Last of Us, where they show this huge wall, it was a regular wall, but there's like this huge mold slash fungus like growing in the wall. It was like, ugh, disgusting. And then the body stuck on it. I really enjoyed the show, but there was a few things that I thought was kind of like, not really believable. First of all, when, what's her name? Sarah. She's the daughter of Joel, who's our main, character. And when she goes in the watch shop, to fix his watch, and the lady's like, no, we're closing, get out of here, because she already knew about the news. Why'd she tell Sarah? She was like, just get out of the shop. And, did she watch it on TV or on the radio? I realized that it was year 2003. And there was no smartphones, no Google alerts, no, Instagram. You couldn't, WhatsApp your family members to say, hey, what was going on? And how fast everything was happening. She went home and then the neighbor's dog, barked at her door. And then when her dad and her uncle came in, everything was already like, stuff hit the fan. And brought me back to 2019, actually 2020, when COVID really hit. And it had been happening since the end of 2019, but then it didn't really spread and it wasn't really big news until, 2020. I always remember March 2020. The scene where Joel and then some civilians, they're, doing some cleanup and they're burning up the bodies. I didn't get that. I mean, I got what they're doing, but isn't the contagion like skin to skin? Wouldn't they get infected? Also, that scene that was disgusting with the fungus on the wall, Joel and Tess got really close to that wall. I was like, you know how bad mold it's for you that you have to like cover your face. I mean, that thing was like mold times 30. You would think that they're getting that close, they would get infected. And at one point I was like, okay, is this virus airborne or not airborne? Can we clarify that? Because the older lady, Sarah's neighbor, she went there to like hang out with her, and then she turns her back and she's looking at like at movies. You see on the back the old lady is like, "Oh, oh, oh, oh," and something's happening, so she contracted the virus. But how? Because if it's not airborne, I don't know how she would contract it by just sitting on the chair. And if making it not airborne was intentional, I kind of liked it because it would be too close to comparison with COVID. And on that note, if they made it airborne, that would mean that the actors would have to wear a mask most of the time. And I think Pedro Pascal, he plays Joel. Pedro Pascal's agent said, no, 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 no. He's not going to another series where he wears a mask 99% of the time. No, he's showing his face on this one. The Mandalorian, he wears a whole suit like 90% of the show, and especially because he's getting paid the big bucks. I think he's getting paid $600,000 per episode. I think he's like the highest paid actor in TV now. And then there was that scene with the public execution of citizens that they broke their curfew, or I don't know if they didn't follow the guidelines. Like they were being either hung or shot in the public square. The lady even said that they were trial, and I think it was a military trial, but why do it in public? If you're gonna execute someone that broke the law, doing, between four walls. Pedro Pascal as Joel, I'm really enjoying him. I'm really, really liking him. But I want to know more about Joel. It seems he has some sort of background that we still, we will get to see. I hope so. Like the scene where he punched that cop, like punches him to death. He had so much anger. I was like, ooh, you got some anger issues. I know he lost his daughter. And then the scene where he's like, taking shots of, brown liquor and popping the pills. I was like, what is going on with you? Let's back it up. Let's get some flashbacks going. I also wanted to know more about his relationship with Marlene, the Che Guevara of the pandemic. I think she's the head of the Firefly, but she's the one trying to smuggle, what's her name, Ellie. And when they meet at that hallway, it's like Joel knows her. He's like, oh, I would expect you to steal this and blah blah blah. So Marlene, it's entrusting Joel with the most important task of her life. Well, you guys must have a pretty close relationship for her to trust you that much. And then we have Tess, who's played by Anna Troff. I remember her from Mindhunter. Such a good show. I was so bummed when it didn't get picked up because it was such a good show. It's on Netflix. I'm not buying that she's the love interest of Joel. I'm not seeing that much of a chemistry between them. Maybe because they look so much alike, not physically. She seems like, like personality wise, she seems like she's the female version of Joel. I'm not seeing like a romantic connection. I hope to see in future episodes how they met. That'll be really interesting to see. So hopefully we'll get some flashbacks. This is going to sound superficial, but when I saw, I was looking up at photos to post on this video, and then I saw a photo of Tess on the video game. And even though she is cut and beat up, she still looks very pretty. She's a very good looking woman. And Anna, even though she's a very, very good looking woman in real life, Tess, not so much. And I know she got beat up, she's all swollen and cut, but you know, if you look at Tess on the video game, she's so pretty. The first episode, it's an hour 26 minutes, and it felt like a mini movie. I liked the way it ended when they showed that iconic skyscraper, or what was left of it, and then the domino buildings. I also liked, because I'm not a fan of zombies, I liked that it wasn't very zombie-ish, like at least this episode. What we saw of the zombies or the people that are infected was very subtle. It wasn't like in your face, and you don't see like close-ups. Like I said, the scenes where they're eating people was very subtle. The striking emotional level was the decisions and consequences that added to the dynamic of the characters and their personal relationships. It wasn't all about the logistics of the infection, and I think that made the show better than I expected. I think episode 2 will be the big decider for me if I'm going to continue to watch the show. And I also think I kind of want to binge it. I don't know. I think once the episode is out, I won't contain myself, and I will watch it every week. As I was doing research for this video, because like I said, I walked in blind, didn't know anything about this video game, but I know someone who's a big gamer, and I asked them about this game, if they ever played, and blah, blah, if you watched the show. And then he said that, yes, he watched the show, and then he pointed out two things. Sarah's death scene it didn't hit him as hard as the video game. Like the scene and the show wasn't as impactful. And I'm really curious to know if you, as a gamer, if you're watching this video, let me know in the comments down below. What did you think of Sarah's death scene? And then we're talking about the infection side of it. You know, how are people getting infected? And he pointed out, it was really interesting, that, you know, remember they're talking about Indonesia and Jakarta, that the virus came from Indonesia. It actually came from wheat, you know, like, you know, yeast, because yeast is basically a fungus. And that's why on, you know, at breakfast, Sarah's trying to make pancakes, and then they were out of pancake mix. And then he's also supposed to go grab a cake for his birthday. He never brings the cake back. And when Sarah goes to the neighbor's house, she makes biscuits and offers it to her. Sarah doesn't eat it. So that's what I'm thinking. Maybe grandma, you know, the one that I said I didn't know how she got infected, maybe she ate the biscuits. And then he also recommended, he said if I get really into the show, or I wanted to know more about the game, there's a documentary. It's on YouTube. It's about an hour and 24 minutes. It's called Grounded: The Making of The Last of Us. I started watching, I watched like 10 minutes of it, and I think I'm gonna finish because, you know, like I said, I'm kind of invested now. You know, when people read books and then they watch the film adaptation, the number one complaint is that the movie deviates a lot from the book. And I think it's okay to deviate from the original source, as long as the changes make it better. These were my thoughts on The Last of Us. It's airing every Sunday on HBO and HBO Max. I'd love to know, if you're a fan of the game, do you think the show is being faithful to the source material? And if you're not a gamer, if you never heard of The Last of Us and you started the show, what do you think? Will you continue to watch? If you like this video, please make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the little bell notification button so you don't miss any future videos, and I'll see you next time.